Okay, let's talk about something that nobody really wants to discuss. Building wealth when you're doing it completely on your own. And I mean really on your own. No partner to split the bills with, no second income to fall back on, no one else's credit score to leverage when you're trying to buy a house. Just you, your bank account, and whatever financial future you can create for yourself. I know what you're thinking right now. Maybe you're feeling a little defensive, like I don't need anyone to take care of me. Or maybe you're feeling the opposite, that panic that creeps in when you're calculating how you'll ever afford retirement on a single income. Both reactions are completely valid. Here's what we need to understand right off the bat. The financial system wasn't designed for single women. It just wasn't. Most financial advice assumes you'll have a partner at some point. Most retirement calculators factor in dual incomes. Even the tax code favors married couples. So when you're trying to build wealth alone, you're not just swimming upstream. You're swimming upstream in a river that was diverted in the opposite direction. But here's the thing, and this is why I wanted to have this conversation with you today. Women are increasingly choosing to stay single or finding themselves single later in life through divorce or loss. The statistics show that 90% of women will be solely responsible for their finances at some point in their lives, 90%. Yet we're still not having honest conversations about what that actually means in practical terms. So today, we're going to get real about the numbers, the challenges, and most importantly, the strategies that actually work when you're building wealth solo. Not the generic, just save 20% of your income advice that assumes you're not already stretched thin. Not the invest in index funds tip that ignores the fact that you might be too scared to even open an investment account. We're going to talk about the messy middle where most of us actually live and how to move forward from there. Because here's what I know to be true. Building wealth alone as a woman isn't just possible. It's happening every single day. Women who started with nothing are retiring comfortably. Women who thought they'd never understand investing are building portfolios. Women who assumed they needed a partner to buy property are signing their own deeds. But they're not doing it by following the traditional playbook. They're writing their own rules, and that's exactly what we're going to explore today. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's go. Section 1. The unique financial challenges women face. So let's get into the actual challenges you're facing, because pretending they don't exist isn't going to help anyone. And look, I'm not bringing these up to depress you or make you feel hopeless. I'm bringing them up because once you can see the playing field clearly, you can actually strategize around it instead of wondering why things feel so hard. First, let's address the elephant in the room, the wage gap. And before anyone jumps into the comments saying it's a myth, let me be clear about what we're actually talking about. On average, women earn about 82 cents for every dollar earned by men. Now, that number varies wildly depending on your race, your industry, and your education level. But here's what that actually means in real money. If you're earning $50,000 a year, a man in a comparable position might be earning $61,000. That's an $11,000 difference every single year. But it's not just about the $11,000 you're not getting today. It's about how that compounds over your entire career. Less money coming in means less money you can save. The less money you can invest, less money earning interest and growing for your future. By the time you hit retirement, that wage gap has cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost wealth. We're talking about the difference between retiring comfortably and working until you're 75. Now, add to that the career interruptions that disproportionately affect women. Maybe you take time off to care for aging parents. And statistically, daughters are way more likely to become caregivers than sons. Maybe you scale back your hours when family responsibilities pile up. Maybe you turn down that promotion that requires constant travel because you're the default parent, the default caregiver, the default everything. Each of these interruptions doesn't just cost you the salary you're not earning during that time. You're also missing out on raises, promotions, retirement contributions, and the compound growth of all of those things. A woman who takes 5 years out of the workforce in her 30s doesn't just lose 5 years of income. She loses the trajectory her career could have taken, the senior positions she could have reached, and all the higher earnings that would have come with them. Then there's something that really makes my blood boil: the pink tax. We literally pay more for basic necessities just because they're marketed to women. Razors, deodorant, dry cleaning, even car repairs. Studies show women consistently get quoted higher prices. You're already earning less, and then you're paying more for the same stuff. It's like playing a video game where someone secretly set your difficulty level higher without telling you. And here's a fun fact that's not actually fun at all. Women live longer than men. On average, about 5 years longer. Which sounds great until you realize that means you need your retirement savings to last an extra 5 years. You need to plan for potentially 5 more years of healthcare costs, housing costs, everything costs. With less money coming in throughout your career, you need to somehow make it stretch even further. But wait, there's more, and this one's subtle but devastating. The confidence gap when it comes to investing and negotiation. Studies consistently show that women are less likely to negotiate their salaries, less likely to ask for raises, and less likely to invest in the stock market. And before you think this is some inherent female trait, it's not. It's learned behavior. We're socialized from childhood to be collaborative rather than competitive, to be grateful rather than demanding, to avoid risk rather than embrace it. Think about it. How many times have you accepted a job offer without negotiating because you didn't want to seem difficult? How many times have you avoided investing because you were afraid of losing money, even though inflation is guaranteed to erode your savings if you just leave it in a checking account? These aren't personal failings. These are the results of a system that teaches girls and women to play it safe while teaching boys and men to take risks. And here's what really gets me. All of these challenges stack on top of each other. You're earning less because of the wage gap, saving less because of career interruptions, spending more because of the pink tax, needing more because you'll live longer, and then investing less aggressively because you've been taught to fear risk. It's not one problem. It's 5 problems compounding each other. So when people wonder why women have less wealth than men, why single women struggle more financially, why the retirement crisis disproportionately affects women, this is why. It's not because we're bad with money. It's not because we're naturally less capable of building wealth. It's because we're running an obstacle course while everyone else is on a straight track. But here's the crucial part, and why I wanted to lay all this out clearly. None of these challenges are insurmountable. They're real, they're significant, but they're not your destiny. Understanding them is the first step to developing strategies that actually account for these realities instead of pretending they don't exist. Because once you know the game is rigged, you can start figuring out how to win anyway. Section 2. Dismantling the myths that hold you back. Now we need to talk about something that might make you uncomfortable. The lies you've been telling yourself about money. And I'm calling them lies because that's what they are, even though you probably don't realize you're doing it. These myths are so deeply embedded in how we think about ourselves as women that they feel like the truth. But they're not. They're just stories that keep you from taking control of your financial life. Let's start with the big one. Someone will take care of me. Oh, this one runs deep. Maybe you don't say it out loud. Maybe you'd be offended if someone suggested you think this way. But be honest with yourself for a second. How many financial decisions have you put off because somewhere in the back of your mind you figured you'd eventually have a partner to figure it out with? How many times have you thought, I'll worry about retirement when I'm married? This isn't about being anti-relationship or anti-marriage. It's about recognizing that even if you do get married, even if you find the most wonderful partner in the world, you still need to know how to manage money. Because life happens. Divorce happens. Death happens. And even in the best case scenario where you stay happily married forever, what happens if your partner gets sick? What happens if they lose their job? What if they're just bad with money? The Prince Charming retirement plan is not a plan. It's a fantasy. And it's a dangerous one. Because every year you wait for someone else to secure your financial future is a year you're not securing it yourself. Every year you put off investing because you figure you'll do it when you have a dual income is a year of compound interest. You'll never get back. Then there's my personal favorite myth. I'm just bad with money. Really? You're bad with money? The same you who manages to pay rent every month, keep food in the fridge, maybe even save up for the occasional vacation? The same you who can calculate exactly how to stretch your paycheck to cover all your bills? You're not bad with money. You've just been taught that being good with money means understanding complex financial instruments and reading the Wall Street Journal every morning. Here's what being bad with money actually looks like. Spending without any awareness, never looking at your bank balance, having no idea where your money goes. If you're watching this video, if you're thinking about your financial future at all, you're already better with money than you think. What you might be is undertrained, underconfident, or underinformed. Those are all fixable problems. Being bad with money is not some inherent trait you were born with. And can we please talk about the investing is too complicated for me myth? This one makes me want to scream. You know what's complicated? Figuring out which health insurance plan to choose, understanding your phone bill, doing your taxes. But you figure those things out because you have to. Investing isn't more complicated than any of those things. It's just been gatekept by an industry that benefits from making you feel like you need them to do it for you. The truth is, basic investing is simpler than most of the things you already do. You can build wealth with a handful of index funds. You can start with literally $50. You can automate the whole thing so you barely have to think about it. But as long as you believe it's too complicated for you, you'll never even try. And that myth is costing you thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime. Here's another insidious one. I don't make enough to build wealth. This myth keeps you from even starting because you've decided the game is over before you've played. Yes, it's harder to build wealth on a lower income. Yes, it takes longer. But harder doesn't mean impossible. There are women who've built six-figure portfolios on five-figure salaries. There are women who retired early on teacher salaries. They didn't do it overnight, and they didn't do it easily, but they did it. The problem with the "I don't make enough" myth is that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You don't invest because you think you don't have enough. You don't negotiate your salary because you think you should be grateful for what you have. You don't start that side hustle because you figure, what's the point? And then 10 years later, you're in exactly the same position, wondering why nothing has changed. Look, I need you to understand something. These myths didn't come from nowhere. They're not random thoughts you developed in isolation. They're the results of generations of women being excluded from financial conversations, being told money isn't ladylike to discuss, being taught that our value comes from being taken care of rather than taking care of ourselves. But just because you inherited these myths doesn't mean you have to keep them. Just because your mother thought this way or your grandmother thought this way doesn't mean you have to. You can be the one who breaks the pattern. You can be the one who says, actually, I am good with money. Actually, I can figure this out. Actually, I don't need anyone to save me because I'm going to save myself. The first step to building wealth alone is believing that you can, not in some woo-woo manifestation way, but in a practical, clear-eyed way that says, the system might not be built for me, but I'm going to work it anyway. It might be harder for me, but I'm going to do it anyway. I might have to learn as I go, but I'm going to figure it out anyway. Because every myth you believe about yourself and money is a chain keeping you from the life you could have. And it's time to break free. Section 3, building your foundation. All right, let's get into the actual nuts and bolts of building your financial foundation when you're doing it solo. And I want to be really clear about something. When I say foundation, I mean the non-negotiable, must-have elements that will keep you from financial disaster. This isn't about becoming a millionaire overnight. This is about making sure that when life throws you a curveball, and it will, you don't end up moving back in with your parents or putting groceries on a credit card. First things first, your emergency fund. And I know you've heard this before, but we need to talk about what an emergency fund actually looks like when you're a woman building wealth alone. The standard advice is 3 to 6 months of expenses. But that's for people with backup plans. You don't have a partner's income to fall back on. You might be the one everyone else falls back on. So for you, I'm going to suggest something different. Aim for 9 to 12 months. I can hear you groaning already. 9 to 12 months? I can barely save for 1 month. I get it. But here's the thing. When you're your only safety net, you need a bigger net. This isn't about being paranoid. It's about being realistic. Job searches take longer for women. We're more likely to face age discrimination. We're more likely to need time off for caregiving. Your emergency fund isn't just about emergencies. It's about giving you the power to make choices without desperation. Start where you can, even if it's $50 a month, even if it's $20. The amount matters less than the habit. Open a separate, high-yield savings account. And yes, it needs to be separate from your regular checking. Out of sight, out of mind, out of temptation. Name it something motivating like My Freedom Fund or Future Me's Security. Make it automatic. The money should leave your checking account before you even notice it's there. Now, insurance. Unsexy topic, I know, but this is where being single really changes the game. You need disability insurance, period. I don't care if you think your job is secure or you're young and healthy. If you can't work, who pays your bills? Who keeps a roof over your head? Disability insurance is income insurance. And when you're your only income source, protecting it isn't optional. Life insurance is trickier when you're single. If no one depends on your income, you might not need much. But here's what people don't think about. If something happens to you, someone has to handle your affairs, pay for your funeral, deal with any debts you leave behind. A small-term life policy can make sure that burden doesn't fall on your parents or siblings. Plus, if you're planning to have kids someday, getting life insurance while you're young and healthy locks in lower rates. Let's talk about multiple income streams, because relying on one source of income when you're building wealth alone is like crossing a tightrope without a net. You need backup plans for your backup plans. This doesn't mean you need to start driving Uber tomorrow or launch an Etsy shop tonight. It means thinking strategically about how to diversify your income. Maybe it's negotiating for freelance work in your field. Maybe it's turning a skill you already have into a side consulting gig. Maybe it's as simple as renting out your parking space or a room on Airbnb occasionally. The goal isn't to work yourself to death. It's to create cushions so that if your main income takes a hit, you're not immediately in crisis mode. And here's something crucial that nobody talks about. You need to invest in your earning potential like it's the asset it island. When you're building wealth solo, your ability to earn is your greatest wealth building tool. That might mean paying for certifications that lead to higher salaries. It might mean joining professional organizations where you'll make connections. It might mean hiring a career coach to help you negotiate better. These aren't expenses. They're investments in your primary asset, you. Your credit score becomes even more critical when you're doing this alone. You don't have someone else's credit to lean on when you want to buy a car or a house. So protect that score like it's gold. Set up automatic payments for everything. Check your credit report regularly. If your credit isn't great right now, make fixing it a priority. A good credit score can save you tens of thousands of dollars over your lifetime in lower interest rates. Here's another foundation piece that might surprise you. A FU fund. This is different from your emergency fund. Your emergency fund is for when life happens to you. Your FU fund is for when you need to happen to life. It's the money that lets you walk away from a toxic job, leave an unhealthy living situation, or say no to things that compromise your values. When you're building wealth alone, the ability to walk away is priceless. Even if you never use it, knowing it's there changes how you show up in the world. I also want you to think about your living situation strategically. Housing is probably your biggest expense, and when you're solo, you're covering it all yourself. That might mean getting roommates even when you'd rather live alone. It might mean buying a duplex and renting out half. It might mean staying in a smaller place longer than you'd like. Every dollar you save on housing is a dollar you can invest in your future. And please, please automate everything you can. When you're the only one managing your finances, you need systems that work without you having to think about them. Automatic transfers to savings, automatic bill payments, automatic investments. The less you have to actively manage, the less likely you are to let things slip through the cracks. One last thing about building your foundation: document everything. Have a will. Have a power of attorney. Have beneficiaries on all your accounts. I know it's morbid to think about, but when you're building wealth alone, you need to make sure that wealth goes where you want it to go if something happens to you. Don't let the state decide. Don't leave a mess for your family to sort out. This is part of being a responsible adult who's in charge of her own financial life. Building a foundation when you're doing it solo, takes longer. It requires more cushion, more backup plans, more strategic thinking. But once you have it, once you've built this solid base, you have something no one can take away from you. You have security that doesn't depend on anyone else. You have options that are entirely yours. And from that foundation, you can build whatever kind of wealth and life you want. We've covered a lot of ground today, and I know your head might be spinning with all this information. So let's break this down into actual steps you can take, starting right now. Not next month, not when you feel ready, not when Mercury's out of retrograde, this week. Because here's the truth about building wealth alone. The perfect time is never going to come. You just have to start with what you've got. This week, I want you to do 3 things. First, open a separate high-yield savings account for your emergency fund. I don't care if you can only put the equivalent of a coffee purchase in there to start. The point is to create the container. You can't fill a bucket that doesn't exist. Name it something that reminds you why you're doing this. My Independence Fund. Security 2025. Whatever speaks to you, just open it. Second, pull up your last 3 months of bank statements. I know, this feels about as fun as a root canal. But you need to know where your money is actually going, not where you think it's going. Highlight every subscription, every recurring payment, everything you're paying for that you forgot about. I guarantee you'll find money you didn't know you were wasting. Cancel at least 3 things. That's money you can redirect to your future. Third, if your workplace offers a retirement account with matching, increase your contribution by just 1%. 1%. That's it. You won't even notice it missing from your paycheck, but it could mean thousands more in retirement. If you're not contributing at all, start with whatever percentage gets you the full employer match. I don't care if it means eating instant noodles for lunch. Free money is free money. Now, let's talk about your monthly check-ins. Pick a date, maybe the first Sunday of every month, and make it your money date. Pour yourself whatever you like to drink. Put on music that makes you feel powerful and spend 30 minutes with your finances. Check your account balances. Review your spending. Celebrate any progress, no matter how small. Did you save an extra $20? Celebrate. Did you resist an impulse purchase? Celebrate. Building wealth alone means being your own cheerleader. During these monthly check-ins, I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. 1. Am I on track with my emergency fund goal? 2. Have I invested anything this month? 3. What's one thing I can do next month to increase my income or decrease my expenses? Write down the answers. Hold yourself accountable. No one else is going to do this for you. Every 3 months, do a bigger review. Look at your net worth. That's everything you own minus everything you owe. Is it going up, even by a little? That's progress. Look at your investment accounts. Have you been consistent with contributions? Are you leaving them alone to grow? Or are you checking them obsessively and panic selling every time the market hiccups? Here's something else I want you to do quarterly. Negotiate something. Anything. Your phone bill, your internet service, your car insurance, your salary. Get comfortable asking for better deals, better rates, better compensation. The worst they can say is no, and you're no worse off than before. But when they say yes, and sometimes they will, that's money straight to your bottom line. Let's talk annual milestones. Every year, I want you to increase your investment contributions by at least the rate of inflation. If you got a raise, half of it goes to investments, not negotiable. You were living without that money before. You can live without half of it now. The other half, sure, improve your life, but half goes to future you. Once a year, do a full financial physical. Update your beneficiaries on all accounts. Review your insurance coverage. Check your credit report. Make sure your will is current. Look at your investment allocation and rebalance if needed. This isn't sexy stuff, but it's the stuff that protects everything you're building. I also want you to set learning goals. 1 financial book every quarter, 1 investing podcast episode every week, 1 YouTube video about money every Sunday. You don't need an MBA in finance, but you do need to keep educating yourself. The more you learn, the less scary this becomes. The less scary it becomes, the more action you'll take. The more action you take, the more wealth you'll build. Here's a practical tip that's made a huge difference for many women. Find your people. Join an online community of women building wealth. Share your wins. Share your struggles. Share your questions. When you're doing this alone in real life, you need virtual support. You need to see other women doing this successfully. You need to normalize conversations about money and wealth and financial independence. And please, track your progress visually. Create a chart for your emergency fund and color in a box for every $100 saved. Make a graph of your net worth and update it monthly. Screenshot your investment balance on the same day each month. When you're building wealth alone, you need to see the progress to believe it's happening. Your brain needs evidence that this is working. One more thing. Create systems that work without your willpower. Automate transfers to savings the day after your paycheck hits. Set up automatic investing so the money leaves before you can talk yourself out of it. Use apps that round up purchases and invest the spare change. The less you have to think about it, the more likely it is to actually happen. If you're feeling overwhelmed, here's your bare minimum starter pack. This week, open that high-yield savings account and put something, anything, in it. This month, start contributing to your workplace retirement plan or increase your contribution by 1%. This quarter, negotiate one bill or ask for one raise. This year, read one book about investing and open one investment account. That's it. That's how you start. Not with perfection, not with thousands of dollars, not with complete confidence. You start messy, you start scared, you start anyway. Because every woman who successfully built wealth alone started exactly where you are right now. Uncertain, but unwilling to let that uncertainty define her future. Your future self is counting on the decisions you make today. She's hoping you'll be brave enough to begin. She's hoping you'll push through the discomfort. She's hoping you'll choose her security over your current comfort. Don't let her down. She deserves the life you're capable of building for her. You know what? I need to tell you something that might be hard to hear. There's a version of you, maybe 10 years from now, maybe 20, who's either going to thank you or resent you for what you do next. She's either going to be the woman who looks at her bank account without fear, who makes choices from a place of power instead of desperation, who sleeps soundly knowing she's secure, or she's going to be the woman still waiting for rescue, still hoping things will somehow work out, still dependent on circumstances beyond her control. That future woman, she's not some stranger. She's you. She has your face, your dreams, your fears. And right now, in this moment, you're deciding what kind of life she gets to live. I know the world hasn't made this easy for you. I know you've been taught to be polite instead of powerful, grateful instead of ambitious, taken care of instead of taking charge. I know that every cell in your body might be screaming that nice girls don't obsess about money, that wanting wealth makes you greedy, that you should be content with what you have. But here's where I know that maybe you don't yet. Building wealth alone isn't just about money. It's about becoming the kind of woman who doesn't need to be saved. It's about looking at yourself in the mirror and knowing that whatever comes, you've got your own back. It's about breaking the chain of women in your family who stayed in bad situations because they couldn't afford to leave, who said yes when they wanted to say no because they needed the security. You are allowed to want more. You are allowed to build an empire of one. You are allowed to be the hero of your own financial story. And if that makes some people uncomfortable, if that challenges their idea of what a woman should be or want or achieve, let them be uncomfortable. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. The path ahead isn't going to be easy. There will be months when the market tanks and your investments lose value. There will be times when everyone else seems to be spending freely while you're saving fiercely. There will be moments when you question whether all this discipline is worth it, whether you're missing out on life while planning for a future that isn't guaranteed. But I promise you this, the first time you look at your growing investment account, the first time you realize you could walk away from a toxic job because you have options, the first time you help someone you love without destroying your own security, The first time you make a major life decision based on what you want instead of what you can afford, you'll understand that every sacrifice was worth it. You don't need anyone's permission to build wealth. You don't need to wait for the perfect partner, the perfect job, the perfect moment. You just need to decide that you're done being financially vulnerable. You need to decide that your future self deserves better than hope as a strategy. The woman you're going to become is waiting. She's waiting for you to be brave enough to begin. She's waiting for you to push through the fear and the doubt and the generations of programming that tell you this isn't for you. She's waiting for you to choose her over your comfort zone. Don't make her wait any longer. She's been waiting your whole life for you to realize that you're capable of so much more than surviving. You're capable of thriving. Alone. On your own terms. By your own rules. The time for excuses is over. The time for waiting is done. The time for hoping someone else will handle this for you has passed. This is your moment. This is your choice. This is your wealth to build. And you know what? You're ready. You've always been ready. You just needed someone to tell you it was okay to want this. Okay to go after it. Okay to build a life where you're the safety net, the provider, the security you've been looking for. Consider this your permission slip. Consider this your wake-up call. Consider this the moment everything changed. Not because the world suddenly became fair or easy, but because you decided to stop waiting for it to be. Your wealth journey starts now. Not tomorrow, not next month, not when you feel ready. Now. With whatever you have, from wherever you are, as exactly who you are. Because you, building wealth alone, changing your family's financial future, refusing to be another generation of women dependent on others for security, you're not just building a portfolio, you're building a revolution. One investment, one negotiation, one brave financial decision at a time. Welcome to the rest of your life. The financially independent, wealth building, no longer waiting rest of your life. It's going to be extraordinary. And you're going to build it yourself.